மறக்காம சர்ப்ரைஸ் பண்ணுங்க. Thank you.
Hey guys, and welcome back. So, in this video I want to show a very nice game played by Grandmaster Gadakovsky against another Grandmaster, Conrad Holt, young GM from the US. And I really admire the way that Komsky just got a very big advantage from the opening and then converted in a pretty masterful technique. So, going forward here, after pawn d4, we had what's pretty typical London setup. And black decided to develop the bishop pretty early to f5. Now, as we've seen before, when black's light-squared bishop develops so early, the principal plan is to play queen b3. This is exactly what Komsky does, put immediate pressure on this b7 pawn. And now we're going to see a somewhat typical mistake from black. I found it pretty surprising that Conrad chose this next move, because it's just a really bad move to respond to queen b3. Conrad played queen to d7, which usually is not where black wants the queen, as it runs into all sorts of nasty moves like knight e5 and bishop b5. So just going back, a better move for black here would have been something like queen to b6 or queen c8. These are both very fine alternatives. But what happened in this game, after queen d7, we really have to admire the way that Komsky was able to get the advantage from early on, starting with a very simple bishop to b5, and then after a6, this brings us to the main tactical moment where Komsky seizes the advantage. And as we've seen many times before in this course, when you're being attacked, you want to look for counterattacks. In this case, there's a very nice in-between move. Rather than moving the bishop, Komsky goes straight ahead and plays knight e5, targeting the queen. And now we see just a loss of time from black. And it's pretty unfortunate when you're black and you have to lose time in the opening because you've misplaced one of your pieces. But here, the queen has nothing better than just to retreat back to c8, where it should have gone initially. And now white makes use of this extra tempo in pretty simple fashion, takes on c6, b takes c6, and queen a4. And the idea is very simple. White is just attacking the c6 pawn, which can't be defended another time. It's only defended once, but no more than that. So going forward here, black is pretty much guaranteed to lose a pawn. What Conrad did was tried to deflect the attention away from the c6 pawn. He played this move c take d4, but then after c take d4, the c-file becomes half open for white, and we're going to see how this really played a role in helping increase the initiative later on for the white side. Knight d7 was played, and now white could take the pawn on c6, but there's really no reason to. Komsky went ahead, played rook to c1, adding more pressure to the pawn. And now black did something very extreme. After taking on e5, black went for this move, king to d7, which is a pretty materialistic move. Black is sacrificing the long-term safety of his king to try and hold on to the c6 pawn. But already we can see that something has gone terribly wrong for black. And going forward from here, I think it's a really nice display of how Komsky uses this king on d7 as just a long-term target and proceeds to outplay Conrad Holt in pretty smooth fashion. So first, white castles. Why not connect the rooks, get the king to safety before going for the attack in the center. Queen b7 played, and now the central attack comes. Very nice move, pawn e5, pawn to e4. As we've seen many times before in this course, if your opponent's king is in the center, or in this case stuck in the center, then you want to try and open up more lines in the position to get through to your opponent's king. And in this case, e4 is just such a thematic move. Even though it is a pawn sacrifice, it is temporary, and white is happy to exchange on e4. So after bishop take e4, knight take e4, pawn take e4. Very simple move played, queen to c2, attacking the pawn on e4, also increasing pressure along the file. Going forward here, f6, bishop g3, queen b5, and after rook fe1, all of white's pieces are in play, and all of white's pieces have very good squares in this position. if we compare it to black's setup, I mean, just look at these pieces on the back rank. They have not moved. The only developed piece is this queen on d5, and the king is just so ridiculous on d7. But it still took work for Kamsky to convert the position. So going forward here, after bishop d6, trade on d6 occurred. Now black king on d6, just such a weak piece. Kamsky went ahead, takes on e4, and after queen d5, it was still a matter of finding the right targets to attack from the white side, because there's no immediate way to win either the c6 or the e6 pawn. So I like what Kamsky did. He plays a simple move, queen g4, attacking the undefended pawn on g7, also putting more pressure on the pawn on e6. So after rook hg8, another very nice move by Kamsky, rook to c5. And this is almost a queen trap. If we look, even though black's queen is in the center, it only has one square to go to. And one of the things I really admire about this game is that it seems like the king on d6 is the primary target, but the way that Kamsky won this game was actually by taking advantage of the black queen. And rook c5, it's just a forcing move. Black has one reply, queen take a2. And now I would encourage you to pause the video and find the continuation here for white. White has just sacrificed a pawn, but now black's queen is a bit out of play on a2. The question is how to proceed to get the biggest advantage possible. So hopefully you can come up with the very nice geometrical maneuver, starting with queen to f3, hitting the pawn on c6. I should mention queen g3 would have the same idea. Just a matter of choice if you want to check the king or hit the pawn on c6. In this case, queen to f3 hits the pawn, and after the move rook to c8, probably one of the only ways to defend the pawn, white can play the very nice queen to c3. And amazingly enough, in this position, black's queen is about to get trapped. The threat is rook a5, and there's very few moves to meet this threat, as the queen has no squares currently in the position. If it moves to a4, that helps. It doesn't help at all after rook a5 does trap the queen. Meanwhile, a move like e5 just opens the center in white's favor and then leads to some mating attack. So what Conrad did in this position, he realized rook a5 was a threat. He decided to attempt to get counterplay on the b file with the threat of queen take b2, but now it's just forced mates as white picks up the c pawn with check after king to d7, continues delivering the checks, and then queen c5. Nice move to finish things off with the threats of both queen d6 and queen e7. So really hope you guys enjoyed that game. I think this is a nice display of how to convert an advantage of king safety. And when your opponent's king is a long-term target in the center with queens on the board, you want to look for as many resources as possible to build your advantage. And you also want to look for other targets in this position, or in such positions, as in this game, Kamsky took advantage of a number of targets, including these weak pawns on c6 and e6 and g7, and then of course later on the queen on a2. So hope you guys enjoyed that, and I will see you in the next video.
மறக்காம சர்ப்ரைஸ் பண்ணுங்க. Thank you.